Hundreds of tech startups, law firms, and other private sector companies today allowing tens of thousands of their employees to join a nationwide strike against the government's plan for a judicial overhaul. And joining us now with more about it is ILTV Jerusalem correspondent Steve Leibovich. Hi, Steve. Tense day. So does it look like the coalition is heeding President Herzog's message to compromise on the legislation for judicial reform?
In a word, no. In two words, hell no. Just hours after the president finished his speech, the committee chair, Simcha Rotman, continued pushing the bill as prepared by the Justice Ministry, by Justice Minister Levine, and pushed it through the committee. However, having said that, Justice Minister Levine had been expected to bring the first parts of the bill for a first reading in the Knesset. That's been delayed. It's not going to take place today. It'll probably take place either next Monday or Wednesday.
And there was pandemonium in the law committee where over a dozen opposition MKs were expelled from the room. Pretty harsh videos. Does it appear that there is a political way forward to reach a compromise?
Not now. The opposition, certainly the Knesset opposition, had a very clear message today, and that is the president called for a pause. You're saying no, you're bringing it before the committee. And that's when the committee became something of a circus, as over a dozen, 14 Knesset members, mostly from Yesh Atid, started jumping over tables, started shouting, started screaming, started challenging the committee's ways of operating. And they had to be physically expelled from the room. That's as far as the Knesset discussion got. It passed through the committee. Rotman continued as though the president had not even spoken.
And what's happening outside in Jerusalem? You were there this morning in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem, speaking of the size of the protest, the voices that are heard.
Well, it may be one of the largest protests that I've ever attended, and I've been covering Israel for over 40 years, I would say. As of the last that I heard, there are 90,000 in Jerusalem that came from all over the country. I know that the train stations and bus stations have been completely overwhelmed. These are entire family units carrying Israeli flags, proud Israeli Zionists whose message is that they think a mistake is being made about the way this reform is being done, and they want their voices to be heard. I would say that today it's estimated that as many as 1 million people participated in some part of the general strike that was called, but it's really hard to gauge exactly how many.
So inside, the coalition is busy pushing forward, while outside, tens of thousands of protesters with a message that Israel, its democracy is under siege. How will the day end, and how will it be remembered?
That's hard to say. I do say this. I know that there are a number of Likud Knesset members that have been urging Prime Minister Netanyahu to find a way to pause, because they see the streets. They understand that this is a very, very serious and widespread protest. They've heard the voices of the leading economists in the country and the world. They've heard the voices of the leading judicial authorities in the country and indeed the world. And some of them are willing to say, maybe we should take a pause and negotiate this agreement, and that's the way to go. We've not yet heard from Netanyahu, who's actually, by the way, not even allowed to deal with judicial issues because of his own judicial problems. He's prohibited from doing so. But ultimately, he's going to have to give a signal of whether he wants to pause or whether he wants this clash to continue.
And I have to ask you, is this political process at the beginning of the end or at the end of the beginning?
Well, it's kind of up to Netanyahu again. I think that the president is doing everything he can to lower the flames, the tensions. We can feel it in the streets of the country. Everyone is concerned. The polls, by the way, are showing overwhelming opposition to the reforms as they are today, by almost 3 to 1, I understand. So politicians also take note of public opinion at some level. This could cost them ultimately in the polls. But I do think that there are some moderate voices within the coalition that may be pushing for a pause, and we'll wait and see if that happens. If not, we're going to have several weeks, if not longer, of serious political turmoil in the streets.
Let's hope for more quiet days. Steve Leibovich, thank you so much for joining us.